So our books have connections to federal acquisition and to contracting. And there may not seem like a connection at first glance. I mean, this is a book about a software company that's not very efficient, learning to be more efficient. But as we'll talk about, it is definitely applicable. There's definitely a connection. It's something that is, I think, essential for managers of contracting offices and teams especially. So ultimately, one of the reasons why this book is so essential is it really tells you how to lead a more efficient, healthy, and happy team, and to start cutting the red tape in your bureaucracy called the business debt. So it talks about this idea of technological debt or technical debt, the debt that you need to take care of in order to have a good infrastructure so you can start getting things done from a technical perspective. But really it doesn't focus on technical debt in this book. It focuses on what's called complexity debt. Because as they said, it's not just technical debt or technical issues, there are business issues that are leading to inefficiency. So this book explains 5 ideals, and it reads like a story. It's a very readable book, which we'll get into the ratings later. But the 5 ideals we'll just talk about briefly. So the first one is locality and simplicity, and it's really talking about making sure decisions are made at the lowest level possible, or the localized level, to increase speed, efficiency, but also trust in those that need to be making the decision. So this already should sound familiar too. Trust in, say, contracting officers to make the decisions that they need to make, which would create more efficiency and speed in review process. The second is focus, flow, and joy. And really this is getting your employees to realize the joy in what they're doing, to focus on the things they need to focus on, and protect your team from the climate above them, which could distract them from focusing, from their workflow, and from their joy. So let's talk about the other kind of management style. So we still have our trees, you're still the farmer, and you still want them to bear fruit. We still have this climate we can't control, the bureaucracy of government contracting in this case, right? Unicorn Project, it was something else, but it's the same idea. And it's still putting down rain and everything, but in order for you to protect that, you cultivate an environment for them to keep them away from the climate. So you build this greenhouse, okay? And as the rain comes down, it just bounces off the roof here, so it's not touching the trees. The flies are still there, right? Because you can't control the flies. They're just buzzing around trying to get in, okay? But they can't. And now you're still being pounded by rain, pounded by flies. You got mosquito bites, flies are everywhere, but you're not letting your team deal with any of that, right? You're absorbing the bureaucracy so they can stay protected. And what's going to happen is they're not only going to bear fruit, you end up bearing optimal fruit. This is big fruit because your team is now empowered and not distracted, right? Focus, flow, and joy to really bear fruit for you. So, and big fruit. So in this situation here, you can expect losses. Even if you throw more bodies into your team, if one just is not working out and you have to get rid of him or her, right? Or if one leaves, you keep on having people that are resigning and leaving. Whoever you bring in, well, you're bringing them into this bad environment. They're going to leave soon too, or just be unhappy where they are. However, what kind of tree is going to want to leave this environment? You're probably going to have to get a bigger greenhouse because you can expect growth, not only in the output of your team members' products and the quality of their work, but in the staff. Probably bring more people in. Everyone's going to want to work for you because you are taking it for the team and letting them do their thing. So also, you're creating the psychological safety, you're empowering them, you're trusting them to make decisions, and this is a little blue ribbon, you're rewarding certain trees for optimal growth. Maybe a blue ribbon for this one, for greatest crop this year. So they feel like they're in a high morale environment and they're going to want to keep giving you good output. The third ideal discussed in this book is improvement of daily work. And really, these are just the techniques of setting your team up to remove all barriers and obstacles. So this was the business debt that I was speaking of. And they started challenging it. At one point in the book, should be very relatable, there was a review board they set up where there was a lot of people that wanted their eyes and made sure they reviewed something, which indicated in this book a lack of trust on the people at the lower levels who really should be empowered to make those decisions. The fourth is psychological safety. Now this is part of morale for the team. They need to be encouraged and empowered to make suggestions without fear of punishment, to take risks often, and know that their leadership will not only support them, but absorb any criticism, absorb, again, the climate coming in, and let that employee do what they need to do and psychologically know that they can trust their manager to have their back. And then finally, there's this customer focus. Now, as a software company, it was very important for Parts Limited, which was the company, to focus on the customer and what the customer really wanted. And that wasn't happening in this book. They were delivering code and delivering things that really wasn't matching with what the customer actually needed. So of course, the application for government contracting, right? The need for us to focus on the end user. Are we defining our requirements the right way? Are we delivering a value product to the customer? In fact, the vision and guiding principles of the FAR, as stated in FAR Part 1, is to satisfy the customer. So a couple other notable quotes from this book. One is from a character called Maxine, and Maxine represents that potentially great producer. She's one of those trees that can bear great fruit as long as she's in an organization that just lets her do her thing. But she says in one point, she said, people couldn't say what they thought. This was the environment at the very beginning that she didn't want to be in. They weren't allowed to use forbidden words, so she didn't have psychological safety. And then she said, I expect leaders to buffer their people from all the political and bureaucratic insanity, not throw them into it. There's another character, Sarah, who kind of represents the opposite of Maxine. So she represents that upper management who does not trust her employees and just wants to add processes. So in this book, she's always sending emails saying there will be a new process for every code you send. It needs to come to me. I need to review and sign off on that. So she's creating review processes that's slowing down delivery of a product. Sound familiar? Contracting? At one point, in one quote in the book, it says, the lack of trust and too much information flowing around is causing things to go slower and slower and slower. At one point in the book, one of the employees asked themselves on page 95, how can we keep our people healthy enough so that they actually do their jobs, and how can we keep them happy enough so they don't quit? That's the challenge. Another great part about this book, especially from a change management perspective, is it's a very kind of a humble book. It's messy, it's imperfect, and so it explains that change starts really in a messy way, and messy is okay. Gradual change is encouraging, even if it's messy, even if it's imperfect. Even doing one small step, like running an efficient meeting, where you have a team get together and you do something, some 15-minute meeting at the beginning of the day, everyone knows what they need to do and you move on. That's a big morale building step. So sometimes the connections aren't that hard to make, the book makes them for you. And the best parts of the book are when they step outside of software, and even though they're trying to teach a software company, they're bringing in from other areas. And one of the areas they bring in is the government. They say in one part, it says, you may have to change old rules that no longer apply. Change how you organize your people and architect your systems. For the leader, it no longer means directing or controlling, but guiding, enabling, and removing obstacles. General Stanley McChrystal, massively decentralized decision-making authority in the Joint Special Operations Task Force, to finally defeat Al-Qaeda, their much smaller but more nimbler adversary. The cost of delay was not measured in money like a software company, but in human lives and the safety of citizens they were tasked to protect. And then later it says, now that's not servant leadership, it's transformational leadership. It requires the understanding of the vision of the organization, the intellectual stimulation to question the basic assumptions of how work is performed, inspirational communication, personal recognition, and supportive leadership. Now, if that's not a good book that really helps government leaders and managers, I don't know what is. So let's give our ratings. Now, we operate on a 5 FAR scale. For relevance, we're going to give it 4 out of 5 FARs. Now, it loses 1 FAR just because this is a book about a software company, and you're going to have to challenge your team to make connections, which are absolutely there. Readability, we're going to give a 5 out of 5. This reads like a story. It's very easy to read. Beneficial, we're going to give a 4.5 out of 5. And the reason why it loses half a point is because this is mainly for managers, but we encourage all team members to read it as well. Total is 4.5 FARs for this book. Now, I'll end with one final quote. I found that whenever you have a team of people who are passionately committed to achieving a mission, and who have the right skills and abilities, it's dangerous to bet against them. because they'll move heaven and earth to make it happen. If you're in a contracting office or acquisition office and you have a team and you want that kind of team, this is a great start for you.